Fish in a Tree, Chapter 26. I run into the bathroom and hide in the stall at the end. I stand, pressing myself up against the wall, embarrassed and humiliated and never wanting to go back. The door opens and someone comes in. "You okay?" Keisha asks. "No, I'm not." "You won an award. Who in the world runs from an award? I'd think you'd be happy." I didn't win for real." "What are you talking about?" she asks. "Of course you did. I was there." "No, trust me, I didn't. He's just trying to be nice." "Why don't you come out of there? You don't understand. Just go away." "You're right, Allie, I don't understand. I don't know why you are mad about an award." I feel so much worse than just mad. I look and say, "When you get on your bike, don't you expect it to hold you up, not fall apart when you pedal?" "Yeah, so what?" "Imagine if every single time you got on your bike, you had to worry that the wheels would come off. And every time you ride, they do. But you still have to ride every day. And then you have to watch everyone watch you as the bike goes to pieces underneath you, with everyone thinking that it's your fault and you're the worst bike rider in the world. Why in the world are you talking about bikes and wheels coming off?" "My brain," I say, leaning my forehead against the cold wall. "My brain will never do what I want it to do." "Come on, it's not like your brain is broken." "So you're not the best speller, so what?" "Your brain seems fine to me. You don't understand what it's like to be different than everyone else." "Wait, have you noticed how different I look than everyone else in our class?" "It's not the same." "Look, you're my friend, the best friend I have here. If you want to say things like that and make it hard to be your friend, then, well, I'll just have to wait for you to come to your senses." "Oh? You're talking like a fool, saying I don't understand what it's like to be different, but the thing is, I'm only different to the people who see with the wrong eyes, and I don't care what people like that think." I laugh a little. "Albert says that the problem is that white people don't have enough melanin. He says that's the thing that makes human skin darker." "Well, that boy is bonkers, but he is a smart one." She sounds happy. "Now come on out." I lean against the wall for a minute more because it's easier to say my next thing without seeing anyone. It comes from a place so deep inside, it's like it's coming out of the ground. I just want to fit in for once. I mean, I really do. Just to be the same as everyone else. Keisha doesn't answer for a while. "Look, you don't fit in. I don't fit in. Albert doesn't fit in either. Who says who fits in anyway? People like Shay? That girl is just mean. Who cares what she thinks?" The stall door is still closed, but I smile as I imagine Keisha's expression. I'm lucky to have her. "Come on, Allie. Who wants to fit in with people like Shay and her worse-than-awful friends? Thankfully, we'll never fit in with people like that." Keisha laughs again. "One thing's for sure. We're not gonna fit in. We're gonna stand out. All three of us, you wait and see. You're going to be a famous artist and Albert's going to cure cancer or invent talking fish or something." "Talking fish? What would they say? Please don't fry me?" I push the door open and her face is just like I imagined. "And you're going to have a big baking business, right?" "Maybe in my spare time. I'm also going to rule the world." I laugh, then swallow hard. "Thanks for being my friend, Keisha." "Don't go thanking me for that. Thank me for this. I'm going to go tell Shay she has a spot on the back of her fancy riding jacket so we can watch her try to look. Then we can eat that ice cream that you won." Chapter 27, Half-Baked Afternoon. Keisha invites Albert and me over to her house for a surprise. When I arrive, Albert is already there and Keisha's wearing her baker's hat and apron. "So when do we eat?" Albert asks. "No free ride here, Albert. We have to cook first," Keisha says, putting a cookbook on the table. Albert seems disappointed. "You'll be able to eat, don't worry. And in the meantime, think of this as a science experiment. So it's two of your most favorite things, Albert." I'm pretty happy until she opens the cookbook and slides it over to me. "You're in charge." "Of what?" "The recipe. What do you think?" "What? Is she kidding?" "And Albert, you can be in charge of rolling the dough." "Going to try cookie dough today to see if the letters cook at a similar rate to cake." I'm freaking out over having to be in charge of the book. I'd rather be in charge of teaching cats to play hockey. And my mind spins into that movie, Mind movie. When I start laughing, Keisha asks me what I'm doing. I have to shrug. Push the picture of a goalie cat with skates and a mouthguard out of my head. Allie, Keisha pokes me. Yeah? I asked, what's the first thing? Albert appears next to me. I'd rather do the book. Want to trade, Allie? You can roll out the dough. Sure, Albert, if that's what you'd rather do, I don't mind switching. Albert begins reading the ingredients while I roll out the cookie dough. It's sticky and hard to roll. Keisha points to a package of flour. Hey, sprinkle some of that on. I managed to get the dough rolled out, but I have my doubts about all of this. I look at the alphabet cookie cutter she uses to make letters. What do you want me to spell? Well, the letters are kind of big for cupcakes, so it can only be 3-letter words. Spell whatever you want. I spell cow because it's the first word I think of. Then we stand the letters up in the bottom of each cupcake mold and cover them with batter. Once Keisha slides the first batch into the oven, Albert asks, "Can I have some milk?" Keisha shrugs. "Sure," she says, taking a glass and filling it. Albert gulps it all down and asks, "May I possibly have some more? We switched to water at home. I really miss milk." She hands him the gallon. "Help yourself." He sits with the milk and wraps his arm around it like he's protecting it. I laugh. "You're not getting that back, Keisha. I hope you know." "I have a question," Albert says after licking the milk from his lips. "If you spell cow inside a cupcake, can a vegetarian eat it? Boy," Keisha says, "you really take everything seriously, don't you?" "Hey," I turn to the oven, "is that supposed to be smoking like that?" Keisha pulls on a mitt. When she opens the door, smoke fills the kitchen. The cupcakes have oozed over the tops of the pans and fallen on the bottom of the oven. It's a mess. She groans. "Oh, man, you should wait until the oven cools before you wipe it," Albert says. Keisha turns to him. "Yeah, thanks, Albert." "You're welcome," he says as she rolls her eyes. She's disappointed that cookie dough will not work for letters. She and Albert figured out that the cookie dough expanded more than we thought it would, and that's why it made such a mess. But I just keep thinking that whenever I write something, it turns into a big mess. Chapter 28, Deal of a Lifetime. "Allie," Mr. Daniels calls to me as the classroom empties for lunch. "Yeah?" I ask, heading over. "So I've been thinking a lot about some of the answers you gave during this discussions. I love it when you share your opinions." "Thanks," I say, wondering why he really called me up here. "And I loved your thoughts on Roy G. Bibb. I overheard you asking Suki about her grandfather and comparing him to yours." "Well, Allie, I am impressed by you." I shrug. What am I going to say? That he's crazy if he thinks I have anything for brains but a pail full of grasshoppers? Really, you have some wonderful gifts, and your explanation of lonely and alone, that was clever. I glance up at him, but stare at my shoes by the time I answer. That was just because I know about those words, alone and lonely, that's all. It was just an unfortunate stroke of luck. He laughs. An unfortunate stroke of luck, huh? I nod. I see. Yeah? Ellie, how many kids your age use phrases like unfortunate stroke of luck? I feel like a fish in a wire cage rather than a tank. Can I go to lunch now? Not just yet. I'm wondering, do you ever think one word but a different one comes out of your mouth? Well, yeah, I guess. Does reading sometimes give you headaches? I nod, more nervous. When you look at letters, do they ever seem to move? I'm confused. Of course they do. They do? He is wide-eyed. I nod, but I'm not sure if I should. He just looks for me a while, and I think I know how Keisha's cupcakes feel when she watches them in the oven. "One more question," he says. I shift my weight. "Have you ever heard of a game called chess?" "Yeah," I say, happier. "It's from Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. My grandpa read it to me a gazillion times. It's the game that uses a checkerboard and the castle pieces, right?" He brightens. "Yeah, that's the one. Do you know how to play?" I shake my head. "Do you want to learn?" "I don't know." "Well," he says, leaning forward and resting his elbows on his knees, I think you'd like chess. I could show you how to play after school, if you'd like." "I'd have to stay after?" He thinks for a second. "Well, I was thinking of starting a chess club. I thought you could come first so I could teach you to play. If it works out well, we could invite other kids. It might be fun, something different." It's not like I was born yesterday. I know he's up to something. Teachers don't volunteer to stay after school to play games. I kind of want to say yes because Mr. Daniels is cool, and I don't think that there is any reading stuff in chess, and my grandpa would have liked to know I could play, but it scares me. Well, I don't think so, but thanks anyway. He seems disappointed. I turn to go. How about if I excuse you from homework for learning to play, how to play? I stop like my feet are strapped to 1,000-pound blocks. Did he just say that? I turn around. What's the catch, I ask. Not catch. If you stay after to learn chess for a few days, I'll excuse you from homework on those days you stay. Am I going to have to write a paper or something? No papers, promise. Just come in here and play a game and get out of homework, no catch. Well, you can't tell anyone in the class. I'll call your mom about it, though. He holds his hand out to shake. We have a deal then? Yeah, okay. I can't say no to that deal. Homework is only one step above death. I'm so happy about skipping some homework that I'll keep remembering it and being happy over and over again. But what really gets me is that in order for Mr. Daniels to come up with this plan, he must have thought of me outside of school when he didn't have to think of me. I bet other teachers have never let me sit in their head 1 second longer than they had to. Chapter 29, Fish in a Tree. Albert, Keisha, and I get off the bus for our class trip and to the Noah Webster house. With no written work today, I'm thinking it will be a silver dollar day. Albert starts collecting acorns from the ground and filling his pockets. I'm tempted to ask why, but I'm afraid the answer will take an hour. Oliver picks up acorns and whips them at the trees. Max joins in. Max hits a tree every time. Oliver, not so much. Mr. Daniels walks over and says something to them, something to make them stop. I pick an acorn up too, and it reminds me of a little Frenchman with a pointed chin, perfectly good-shaped head, and a little beret. I name him Pierre and stick him in my pocket. I decide I'll have to do a drawing of him later. Maybe dancing with a lady at the Eiffel Tower. My grandpa always said he was going to take me to see it. Albert's pockets are bulging by the time we line up to go inside. Shay is rolling her eyes at him and laughing. When Mr. Daniels looks in her direction, she stops like she has an on-off switch. When he looks away, she laughs at Albert again. Don't laugh at me, I say. Don't laugh at him, I say. Fine, she says, I'll laugh at you. I don't care if you laugh at me. Albert just stands there looking a little lost. Albert, I whisper, why don't you tell them to go jump in a lake or at least to leave you alone? Albert, Keisha talks to him in her you better listen to me voice, hunched over and silent as no way to meet the world. Albert bends over picking up more acorns. He looks up at us. It isn't logical, he says. It will only let them know it bothers me. So it does bother you, I ask. He stands up straight. Well, no one likes to be insulted, but let's say that my worry about Shay is a drop of water in the ocean compared to my other worry right now. What's that, I ask. These acorns, he says, holding one up. This green coloring on the side looks like moss, but I'm concerned that it's actually a fungus. If this is the case, all of these trees may be in danger. I have collected samples and we'll do further research. I lean in and look at the acorn. I like how Albert cares and is able to see things other people wouldn't. But I wish Albert would care about himself as much as the scientific world. Mr. Daniels puts us into groups. I pray that I end up in his group or with Keisha and Albert. I get part of my wish and am in a group with Albert. Mr. Daniels is with a bunch of boys, including Oliver and Max. We get the drill about behaving, things being old, and how we're not supposed to touch them. We break into our groups and head upstairs into a bedroom. So, our guide says, straightening her bonnet, does anyone know where the term sleep tight came from? Albert raises his hand and calls on him with a smile. Albert points to the underside of the bed. Mattresses were held up with rope, so they were off the floor and away from the bugs. When the mattresses would say, they would tighten the ropes, making the bed more comfortable. Hence the saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Well, if anyone would know about bed bugs, he said. He would, Shay whispers. Downstairs in the kitchen, the fireplace is big enough to stand in. The lady tells us that girls didn't go to school as much as boys, that they typically stayed home to learn how to take care of the house. My mind bites into that and I can't stop thinking about it. No more school, ever? I lean over. Albert, do you think that time travel is possible? He whispers. Albert Einstein had extensive theories on its possibility, and I certainly wouldn't argue with him. Me neither, I say to him. How do you think I would look in one of those dresses and bonnets? He looks puzzled. Finally, we go to the colonial schoolroom and join the rest of our class. A lady talks about what a visionary Noah Webster was to create the first American spellers and dictionaries. Before that, people used to just make up spellings. There were no right or wrong ways to spell. Some visionary, this spelling stuff is all his fault, since he's the one who got it in his head that we all needed to spell the same way. I am thinking Noah Webster was a scoundrel, and they should have put him in jail for this. The lady tells us it took him 20 years to write the dictionary. He also wrote the first school books and grammar books. I think he must have been tipped off his rocker, as my grandpa used to say. Students in colonial times didn't use paper and pencils like you do now. The lady holds up a little chalkboard in a wooden frame. They used slates like these and wrote their answers down to show their teacher. She passes out slates, which are fun to write on. I draw a picture of Pierre with his beret, and I wish I had some green chalk to add a little smudge in honor of Albert. The woman takes out a pointed white hat. Now, this is something teachers began to use in schools toward the end of Noah Webster's life. It's called a dunce cap. As a punishment for misbehavior, a child would have to wear it and stand in the corner facing the wall. I hear giggling. Shay is showing her slate to a bunch of other kids. There's a head wearing a dunce hat, and Allie is written underneath. What's the fuss about? The guide asks as she walks over, and then she turns to them. This isn't very nice. Erase that, please. I stand, willing the tears that come to my eyes to stop, knowing they will only give everyone more to make fun of. Are you all right? The guide asks me. Everyone is quiet now. They are all watching me. It's worse than the laughing, so I run out of the room and out of the museum. A woman calls to me, but I keep going. Out the door and around the back, across the lawn of a beautiful light green house, I find a swing set, which reminds me of my grandpa and how we spent hours on them at the park. I try to think about what he'd say now, and I'm sad that it's hard for me to remember his voice exactly. My hands slide down the chains as I sit on the seat, thinking of when I was little, when my world wasn't such a heavy place. I used to love to swing as high as I could, leaning back, reaching for a bright blue sky with my feet, and it made me feel like I could do anything, reach anything. I lean my cheek against the cold chain, feeling like I can't reach anything anymore. Then the tears come. And then, standing in front of me, are feet. The shoes on them belong to Mr. Daniels. He stands for a while without saying anything until he finally says my name. All I can do is to respond is sniff. Can you tell me what happened in there? I don't know what to say. Such a small question and such a giant answer. Please just leave me alone. He takes a couple of steps away and stays quiet for a bit, and then he says, my brother and I used to love to write in the sand on the beach. My family would go to the Maine. I don't answer him. Then he picks up a stick and writes something in the dirt under the swing next to me. More words. Why can't I ever get away from words? He turns toward me and I stare at his knees. Allie, he says, holding out the stick. Do you want to write something? I shake my head. I think of flying on swings through the bright blue skies and away from the words like dumb and freak and loser. He squats down in front of me. I'm sorry about what happened, about whatever it was that upset you. Let me help. I take a deep breath. And when I get it all out, the words come with it. Nobody is ever going to be able to help me. Not ever. They all say I should have a dunce cap, and they're right. That's the thing. They're right. Oh my. Allie, you actually believe that, don't you? I can hear that it's a shock to him. I finally look up at him. Why wouldn't I? Because you are most certainly not dumb, Allie. You're just saying that. No, I'm not actually. For one, you are amazing on those bus driver math problems. You're one of the kids who gets the really harder ones correct. I look up into his face with the bright sun behind him and blurt out, "But how come I can't read?" It's the first time I've ever asked the question out loud. I guess because I'm so desperate for an answer. "Ah, Allie," he says, "this thing that makes school hard for you, I think you might have something called dyslexia. And it means that, although it's hard for you to read, it doesn't mean you're dumb." He laughs a little. "In fact, you, Allie Nickerson, are far from it. Your brain just figures things out differently than other people." "I'm different." He's got that right, but no way am I smart like he says. You don't understand. "Yeah, Allie, I think I do." And then he leans in, and you know what? You're brave. I so want to be brave, but I'm not. Coming to school every day, knowing what you're in for, knowing school will be hard and that other kids are going to razz you, and you still come every day and decide that you're going to try again. I stay quiet just thinking about what he said, hoping he knows what he's talking about. And you know something else? In some ways, you're a lot smarter than those other kids. You can also do things they can't. For one, you're an amazing artist. Those drawings of yours, wow, Allie, you've got talent there. What do you think about that? I think it's like saying, "I'm sorry you're going to die, but at least people are going to bring you flowers." He laughs really hard now. "See that? Seriously, Allie, only smart people say things like that." His voice drops. "It's going to be okay, kiddo. I have never hoped for something as so much as this. You and I are going to figure this out together. As a matter of fact, I already spoke to Mrs. Silver and Mrs. Kessler, the reading consultant at school. I'm already planning to call your mom and talk to you tomorrow. We're going to give you some tests." I deflate. "Oh, no, please, no tests." "Not the tests that you're used to. You'll see. These are more like puzzles and games than tests. But the results will help us help you." I feel like I can look up for the first time. You are smart, Allie, and you are going to learn to read. A chill runs through my whole body. I don't have any choice but to believe him, because I can't go another day thinking things will be like this forever. I wipe the tears from my face with the back of my hand. He stands up and we start walking back. Mr. Daniels looks up at the bright blue sky and says, "Now, don't be so hard on yourself, okay? You know, a wise person once said, 'Everyone is smart in different ways, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking that it's stupid.'" I think hard about that. Could it be that simple? A mind movie flickers in my brain of an angry fish at the bottom of a tree, banging on the trunk with its fins and complaining that it can't climb it. I think of a turtle making a sandwich, a snake playing the violin, an elephant knitting, penguins playing basketball, an eagle scuba diving. But mostly, I hope, with every tiny bit of myself, that Mr. Daniels is right about all of this.